Chris Wray was brought in to clean up the FBI. He was warned by the Speaker of the House and the Chairman of House Intel, eye to eye, you can be part of the cleanup crew or part of the cover-up crew. But nothing changed. So when Donald Trump was elected a second time, Chris Wray resigned, and President Trump picked a former federal prosecutor who also happened to be a former federal public defender. The task is and was challenging, but essential. Restore public trust in the Bureau. Build a Bureau that is not only respected, but worthy of respect. And that man is Kash Patel, and he joins us now. Welcome, Director Patel. Thank you for joining us. You've been on the job for about a month now, so tell us what you've seen and what you've learned.
Well, Trey, it's great to be with you, and I wanted to stay radio silent for the first month, just a laser focus on restoring law enforcement and the credibility and the trust of the American people and getting the weaponization out of there. And in order to do that, you need a strong Department of Justice. And we have a courageous leader in Attorney General Pam Bondi and her team over there. And we have to remind the folks in the American public that the FBI reports to the Department of Justice. And the FBI does not make prosecutorial decisions. We investigate based on lawful predications anywhere the facts lead us, and we work with our partners at DOJ. So that collaboration has been absolutely brilliant to set the new foundation for the FBI that we want to see serve the American people. And that's what we've been focusing on, is restoring the trust through the chain of command and through great leaders like Pam and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and PADAC Emil Bome.
All right, Director, you've been very intentional about moving agents out of D.C. and back into the field, which is where they really ought to be. Why is that important to you?
Well, Trey, this is my first media appearance since taking the job, and I'm glad that it's on your wonderful show. And what I want to do is highlight for the American public that there's 38,000 employees at the FBI. If you take the national capital region, as the folks around Washington, D.C. call it, the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., we have 11,000 employees for the FBI in that 50-mile radius, give or take. And a third of the crime does not happen in this region. A large portion of one of my priorities, fighting violent crime, crushing narco traffickers, stopping fentanyl overdoses, is happening in any town USA across this country. And they need resources in the form not just of money, but manpower. So we're going to reorient our assets in Washington. We're going to look at it strategically, as we've been doing the last month, and send our agents and analysts and SOS operatives into the field to take on this violent crime explosion that has occurred over these last 4 or 5 years, and to make sure that every state and every county, be it in my hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada, or up in Montana or in Kansas or Iowa or Maine, is all safe and secure. And the best way to do that is through a proper show of force with the FBI men and women who do this job so courageously every day out in the streets fighting crime.
All right, Director, you have touched on my next question, but I want you to elaborate because I think it is central to your mission as you see it. The FBI has really broad jurisdiction. All criminal statutes are important to enforce, but your emphasis sounds to me like it's going to be on violent crime.
It's definitely going to be a big emphasis. Look, Trey, you and I have been in government service before, and we overlapped in the House Intelligence Committee, where we exposed the largest corruption in FBI history during Russiagate when you and I partnered there. And that formed the foundation of my ethos going forward. We have to change to the dynamic threat landscape that is changing constantly in not just America, but abroad. Back then, CT and national security were up here, but now we see the narco traffickers and the gangs exploding in terms of violence in America, so we see that shift. And so we have to shift with that threat dynamic. We're not going to forget or ignore national security. Never. The consequential mission of the FBI is to safeguard our citizenry and our way of life and to investigate those that do harm to our citizenry. But right now, the major portion of that focus is on sex trafficking, is on fentanyl and heroin overdoses, and is on violent crime in the form of gang murders and homicides and rapes. Every 7 minutes in this country, Trey, a individual American citizen overdoses on a drug, a narcotic. Every 6.5 minutes, a woman or child is raped. And twice an hour, an individual in this country is lost because of a homicide. That is violent crime out of control. That is a national security crisis. So we are treating it as such under this administration with President Trump's priorities and Attorney General Bondi at the helm of the Department of Justice. I don't know how or why the American public in the world refused to acknowledge this explosion in violent crime and found it acceptable for children to be dying off at such a vast rate. Couple that with the explosion in illegal aliens, we are seeing the intersection between violent crime and so many of those illegals, and that's another priority that we're facilitating and assisting with, though that's not our primary mission. That's over with DHS.
All right, Director, I want to ask you about something that I've known you a long time. You don't want to talk about, and that is yourself. But when you were nominated, I told folks that you would be a lot more fair to your critics than they ever were to you. But it's hard to forget what others have said and done. So how do you put that blindfold on and be fair even to those who were never fair to you?
Well, Trey, as I tell everybody at the FBI when I walk in the building, I don't care what the media says about me. There's nothing they can tell me that I haven't heard. As long as I'm taking the arrows and the men and women of the FBI aren't, I'm winning every single day. And I learned from your great mentorship and friendship on the House Intelligence Committee, where we served together, where we said the priority here is the truth and serving the American people. And that lesson that I learned with you and so many of the brave men and women on the House Intelligence Committee has stuck with me to this day. Now, also, I got to add in here, Trey, I know I was nominated by President Trump, and I had a lot of support. But a big thanks to you for reaching out to the community that you have on Capitol Hill, and your voice was heard in those hallways to carry that message and penetrate and break through that glass charade that was, oh, Kash Patel cannot lead the FBI because he's too political. But as you just pointed out, I may be one of the most falsely maligned people in all of government service. And I don't care if they continue to falsely malign me. What I cared about is the leaders and the American people saw that in 16 years of apolitical government service, I was there to put the mission first. And I'm indebted to you for allowing me to continue in our friendship and your guidance on the Hill during that process.
Well, you're welcome, Director, but all I did was ask the senators to give you a chance. You're the one that won the argument. I just got you in the courthouse, but you're the one that won the argument.